coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California. It's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal.
Hi, and welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience, only on the Parapod TV network. I'm your host, Sheena Metal. I'm a psychic medium. I'm an energetic healer. I'm an interfaith minister. I'm a 29-year talk radio host in Los Angeles and beyond. I am both a performing and a creative artist, and I come to you live from my home in Southern California every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Pacific time. I am also a paranormal survivor, and we're going to learn more about that later today. This show is about spirituality. It's about creativity. It's about humanity. It's about passion. It's about service. It's about becoming and then being your best you in this big, beautiful world, and then inspiring others to do the same. And it may be my show every week. It is the Sheena Metal Experience, after all, but that doesn't mean it's not always and forever your experience. My guests today we've kind of been thrown together as a team to help to fight a mutual loved one who has been dealing with spirit attachments for many years of her life. She is fighting to keep them out of her life, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. She's, of course, Melodie Brookman, and she's been here on the show many times. Also, her other half, Barry Conrad, who's been a guest and a friend of the show and a friend of mine for years, is here as well. We did a little thing in January where we worked to get rid of her entities. And then last week, we were joined as well by my friend Darlene Burton, who is what I like to call a paranormal techspert. She's good with all the gadgets and machines and all that stuff I'm terrible with. And she's created a new yes, no answer box, and we debuted it at Barry and Melodie's house, their very haunted house, and chaos ensued. But that's what happens when you play with your paranormal friends. So please welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience, Barry Conrad, Melodie Brookman, and Darlene Burton. My kind of new little, we're like entity hunters. We're fighting entities together. Hi, friends.
How's it going? Good to see you.
It's good to have you all. But it's important, right? That I think that we talk a lot about identifying paranormal activity, and that certainly is important. And Barry, you've been doing that for longer than I even talked about my own experience as a kid. But actually working to rid people of negative attachments and fight for the light and make the world a better place, that's a whole different thing, right? And I think that we've learned the other night that the four of us do that really well together. Melodie, how are you feeling?
Well, they were still burning me at night time. So, I know they're still around, and I don't hear them as much, but they're still around. And then, the lights will flicker, or, still noises and stuff. But I'm still fighting, and I'm still here, and
Okay.
I'm going to continue to fight.
Okay. I'm going to ask you and Barry to go out and come back in, because you're breaking up really bad. Will you sign off and sign back in? This happens with Melodie and Barry because obviously haunted house. So we're going to have you do that. Darlene, let's talk a little bit about you, and because it's your first time on the show, and your history in the paranormal. What was it that got the paranormal on your radar, and then what led you to start working with and then creating devices to help people identify what's around them?
Well, it started when I was very young. I used to have like relatives that passed away would come to me in my dreams with messages for family members.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then it just kind of escalated from there. I would have premonitions, and then, occasionally I would just hear things and stuff like that. And so I wanted to know what was going on, because I'm a very logical, kind of scientific kind of person. And so I didn't automatically go, oh, it's ghosts, I'm haunted or anything like that. But so I joined a team, and the more and more that I learn, the more and more questions I have. So I'm a true believer now, but that's how it started. And I got into making the equipment just because, you know, a lot of that equipment is hard to find and it's also extremely expensive.
Yeah.
And I found out that I was pretty good at coding and with the computers and putting all things together. I'm a pipe fitter by trade. And so I just started making my own equipment so that I could have this stuff on hand instead of paying like $400, $500 a piece for each equipment.
Sure.
And then I also wanted specific equipment like the yes no device. You know, there's nothing out there like that. And I'm like, this would be great. Why isn't it out there? So I'm making it.
That's awesome. And I think people don't know that all paranormal stuff, right, up until very recently, it either was something that somebody took, like an EMF meter that was not made to be paranormal and made it a paranormal thing, or a mini tape recorder that was not built for the paranormal but made it one,
Yep.
or the tape recorder that's in your phone, right, the recording device. Or it's something like the ghost box, which was originally called a shack hack because somebody took a little Radio Shack radio and cut a wire. It was something where people took everyday electronics and household items and modified them to be paranormal investigation tools. So the idea of making something yourself, or of modifying something or different various things and turning it into things. Because when I was looking at your box the other night, my dad was an engineer. And so he was an electrical engineer, and he designed stuff like that all the time. I was looking at your device and I'm like, oh yeah, that's that could go in this other thing. And this little board goes in this, and just putting all that stuff together to make it do what you want. Right. I mean, it's just simple electronics. You just make it do what you want. And then we see how the spirits respond to it.
Exactly. They're just sensors, you know, like I use the touch sensors for the yes-no device with 2 different color LEDs. And then I had a barometric pressure sensor, which does the temperature and barometric pressure, which gives you altitude. And then I had a magnetizer to also see how much the magnetism is going on. And so these are all the different sensors I used for that evening at Melodie's house.
It's fantastic. Melodie, have you had a lot of people in your house with machines? I know that you and Barry have the place pretty much rigged up with cameras, and you've caught all kinds of stuff. And I know you do EVPs and you've caught all kinds of stuff, but have you had a lot of stuff like what Darlene created in your house?
A few things. Like Stefan Bugatti would bring all his little toys over.
Stefan.
And
we love him.
They usually light up, or temperature will drop, or so yeah, it's the electronic stuff does work around here. Yeah. I bought this cheap little light and it it fades into different colors, and then like as soon as I turn it on, they like to turn it off. So I have to tell them, I go, I'll leave my light alone. And then they leave it alone. Leave it alone, I like it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like to turn it off a few times. And I have to tell them, stop it,
I've never been in a house. I've been in a lot of scary places. I've never been in a place where the cat balls, so for people who don't know what the cat balls are, they're actual cat ball toys. As a matter of fact, I bought a couple and I put one in my bag with my paranormal investigation stuff, and I gave the other one to the cat. So they are actually a cat ball, and the idea is that the cat touches the button, they light up. But in paranormal instances, Barry's got it right. In paranormal instances, they light up without anybody touching it. And I've never been in a place, and I've been in a lot of scary places, including the Newland Center in Huntington Beach. I'm going to take you all to, and we're all going to do an investigation there. I've never been any place where the cat balls go off the way they do in your house. I mean, it's just like you have a ghost cat that's just hitting the things over and over again.
Yeah. Well, I told Barry, I said, there's no battery to them, so they do wear out if you keep them on all the time. And so the button turns them on and off, and they're activated by a loud sound or a jerk of the movement. And they do like touching them and activating them. So I like to keep them away from other electronics, just to be on the safe side, so nothing else sets them off. And I make sure they're away from something else that will like a loud sound or something, so that nothing will bump it, set it off, because they're very easily set off. And I don't think most people know how easily they are set off.
Right.
And but as in when you guys were over, the ball was moving around on its own, and from time to time they were going off on their own.
Yeah.
And that is paranormal. And they do like the cat balls, because I had one up in the bed. I have a couple in the bedroom, and it was on the mantle. I'm not even close to the mantle. I'm in my bed, and he kept lighting it off, lighting it off, lighting it off, and I was like, all right. It got to the point where it's just annoying,
Right.
to see it go off all the time. Yeah.
But even your pendulum was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
The
yeah.
pendulum.
Really
Yeah,
rotated.
and what about the divining rods? The divining rods and me are always friends. As a matter of fact, I got my first set. I was visiting a friend maybe 10 or so years ago at her house in the San Fernando Valley. And she said, oh, somebody bought me these and they've never worked. Does anybody want to try them? And she literally put them in my hands and they started doing this. And it was so crazy. At the end of the night, she gave them to me. She's like, they belong to you. They're in a Ziploc bag in my investigation bag that stays in the trunk of my car. They have never come out. They don't go in my house. They go on investigations with me, but they never go in my house because they're so active. So rods are kind of my thing. I learned later in my life, and the rods were going crazy.
Yeah.
But an interesting thing, the cat balls.
Yeah, the rods
are very active. But then later, Darlene and I were trying to set them off on our own by like hitting the table and waving our hands over them, and they weren't coming on at all.
Doing it.
So clearly they were just on spirits. I'm sorry, Barry. What? I'm sorry, Barry. What?
It felt the other night felt like a sort of veritable Disneyland of the dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It was an interactive light show. But with spirits. Yeah, it was crazy. Darlene, talk a little bit about what happened with your box. So the idea of your box, right, is it's supposed to answer questions, yes or no, and it has a human voice program, some kind of voice program into it that literally says yes or no, and a light comes on, right? So how did it react at Barry and Melodie's house as opposed to how it's supposed to react like in a normal, non-super haunted place?
Well, yeah, I'll first start you at the beginning. I got there before you got there, and I had originally set up in a different room. And in that room, it was doing nothing. I had everything plugged up. It was doing nothing. And then you guys were saying, well, let's go to the table. And I didn't know that table was, what's that?
I said, eventually.
I'm sorry. Yeah. And then, you guys were like, let's go to the table. And I'm like, I didn't know this is where everything happens. And so right when I plugged everything up at that table, it just started going, yes, no, yes, no, 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 yes, yes, yes. I thought that my equipment is malfunctioning. I was sitting there sweating. I'm sitting there playing with the wires. I'm plugging everything, replugging everything. I literally thought that, oh God, my equipment's down. This is so embarrassing. And then finally it just stopped. And then that's when I realized, I forgot what question you asked, but all of a sudden it goes, no. Mm-hmm. And it just answered you immediately. And that's when I realized they were playing with it. And they love to play, especially with the no. They liked getting her saying no, 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 no. And that thing is not programmed to do that at all. I mean, and the way it was doing it, the light was flashing so bright. See, I had coded it in a special way that when you press it, it only kind of slowly pulsates. But this was pulsating so fast, I can't explain that because it's not programmed at all to do that.
No, and
so
it was
just going crazy.
Saying, no, 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 no. I mean, it was crazy. And I believe those no's were that the three non-human entities that follow Melodie and torment, they knew that when we come, we're coming to try to get them to go away and move on. And they don't want to. So instead of any kind of participation, I think they thought if they just screamed no for 10 minutes straight, we would go, oh, okay, and we'd go away. That we would just say, oh, okay. And the only time they would come in with clear no's was when you'd ask a question, like I would say, okay, so you're basically telling us you're going to leave Melody alone now, right? And then it would be like, no. It'd be like a simple no, and then it would go back to its no, 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 no.
Yeah.
So it would start and answer questions. And I think it was just, if there's something that I've learned from these entities that torment Melody, it's that they're just, they don't want to be bothered. They don't want anyone getting in the way of their torment. They don't want to be told to leave. They don't want to be asked to leave. They don't want any other light beings there getting between Melody and them. So I think they think they're just going to shut it all down by being annoying and we'll all just go away. And it didn't work like that. And I think they don't know what to do, because now with all of us together and Barry filming and the documentary he's working on, now as soon as like they start, we're like, oh, let's stay for another hour. And that's the opposite of what they're used to, right? They're used to shutting everything down and being in control. And I think with all of us there and all four of our very strong light being energies there, they can't run the show anymore. And I think it's increasingly frustrating. And that's why we're now seeing really strange things. Like one of the things I thought was very interesting was the change in personality in your dog. So Barry and Melody have two dogs. One dog is the sweetest, most gentle thing. And the little boy is, you know what? He'll come up and bite your face. Yeah. And he became like the sweetest, most affectionate. He was practically in my lap. He was trying to get people to kiss him and touch him. And he was rubbing his mouth on me. And it was like he was a changed boy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we don't know how much those spirits have been affecting him.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know.
Yep.
Has that ever occurred to you, Barry, that maybe the reason he bites is because he feels unsafe because the spirits are around?
Yes, possible. He does go through a number of mood changes. And I know originally, even before I knew Melody, he had been bitten by a pit bull on a walk. That may have something to do with the stuff.
Sure.
But there were times when he was different. I usually kind of avoid people.
Yeah, you know what, you guys? I am losing you again. Will you do me a favor? I'm going to talk to Darlene. Will you guys go out and come in on your cell phone? I think that will work better. I think for whatever reason,
It's messing with them.
That house does not do well with the Wi-Fi signal. It's
it's up there.
What about where you
but
are?
Also,
is it haunted where you are, where you live?
I'm in an apartment building, so it's possible, but it's so hard because I have so much energy around me that it's hard to distinguish if it's haunted or not. Yeah.
Where are you in Southern California?
In Westchester.
Okay.
By Marina Del Rey.
Okay. Is that a phenomenally haunted area? I mean, there's a lot of water there, right? So is that and you're close to the coast? Is that an area that tends to be haunted?
I have not really done a lot of research on it. I just moved here because I fell in love with the place. But typically, you're right. When you get around the water, you usually will run into a lot of more activity. Water is a conduit.
My
for
house
activity.
is on a marshland, wetlands that was an Indian burial ground, and where I live is sort of part of the wetlands that they allowed to develop. But all around where I live is the part of the wetlands they're not allowed to develop because there is an endangered kind of blue heron, and this is their home. So I live first of all, my whole backyard is a pool, right? So huge conduit. I live below sea level. My place is built on sand. Right next to me is the haunted wetlands burial ground, and then Pacific Coast Highway, and then the Pacific Ocean. So I don't know how this place could not be haunted.
Right.
But
You've got all the elements for it.
I use a lot of salt lamps and a lot of selenite. My best friend's husband was here the other day, and he was sitting in my family room, and he said, "How many salt lamps do you have in this house?" And I'm like, "Oh, a lot," and getting more every day. Like if I find out somebody on Craigslist is, "Oh, I'm giving all my salt lamps away," I'm like, "I'm getting in the car and I'm coming over."
I'm there.
And I let them run 24 hours. I never turn them off. And I find that the combination of that, the salt lamps, I put brooms in every room for protection, kind of my old school Irish thing. And I have a lot of black tourmaline and a lot of selenite wands and towers. It keeps the place at bay. And I have a cat, which is a great spirit guard dog, right? It keeps the place at bay so that I don't have to live in a haunted house, because I grew up in a really haunted house outside of Baltimore as a kid, and I don't want to do that again, you know. Yay, they're back.
Yeah.
Yes,
hi.
Okay, you guys sound 100% different on the phone.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
So it has
Much
to
clearer.
be something about the spirits mess with your Wi-Fi.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Barry, you were saying something about your little guy, that he got bit by a pit bull. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, her dog got bit by a pit bull back when he was younger, and so he's a little bit bitey with people if he doesn't know them when they come over. But the other night was really unusual because he was very friendly towards you and everybody around, and that's a little bit unusual. He's usually a little more standoffish. So he
was literally under the table, and he had his front paws on each one of my knees, and he had his nose like on my abdomen. And he was just like rubbing, and then he came around to the side to where my hip was, and my hand was down there, and he kind of nuzzled my hand and rubbed my hand with his nose. And I kept waiting for the teeth to come out and bite something off. But I came home with all my fingers.
Yeah.
You did good.
He even came up to me. That was the first time I ever met him, and he came up and started licking my hand.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow.
So maybe as we start to release these spirits, it's going to turn out that it wasn't just the PTSD from the pit bull attack, although, you know, it's all well and good till a pit bull bites your face. But I think we're going to find that the spirit activity has really messed with him. It's interesting because, Barry, you shot some wonderful footage, and I don't want to spoil too much, but you have actual footage of these negative beings coming and attacking Melodie in the night from cameras that you set around your bedroom. And he's underneath, like under her legs, and he sleeps through the whole thing. Like everything around him is moving and he's not moving. Yeah. And I've often wondered, and I don't know what you all think of this, but I've often wondered if sometimes spirits or off-worlders or whatever is attacking will attack one being and almost put another being into paralysis. Because you hear all these stories of people who are routine abductees and they're sleeping in a bed with their partner and the partner never wakes up. And the aliens are coming in and taking them out and the other person never wakes up. And you wonder if there's something that they do to that other person, or maybe they do something to him to kind of paralyze him. Yeah, because it's not normal for a dog not to wake up when covers and mattress and everything are moving around him.
Like a sleep paralysis almost.
Yeah.
And I know now Noe sleeps in the same room, but you can't see her on camera because she's in the corner. Yeah. But there was one night when Noe spotted this entity. There was a scene that we've got on camera. We decided to try religious music. We played Ave Maria through the TV set. And when we did that, this mist came wafting through the dining room, and Noe comes trotting towards the mist in a light. You can see a light within the mist. So it's almost like she locked onto it. But like you said, most of the time they seem to be at night. They don't. Maybe it does put them in some kind of paralysis or sleep paralysis state because there's very little activity from them at night. So it's very possible.
And if that is happening to him, maybe he has trauma from that. And maybe that has something to do with him wanting to bite all the time, because he knows, Melodie, that you're being attacked. And then by proxy, Barry's being attacked and the house is being attacked. Maybe he feels like he's being attacked. So he feels like he always kind of has to be on guard to attack everything that comes near him. Except the other night, maybe because we were all there and he felt like we were pushing the entities away, then he suddenly could be this sweet little guy. It was really interesting. What do you think about that, Melodie? He's your baby.
Yeah. Normally he's just, wanting to bite everybody that comes in.
Yeah.
And then usually he'll just go under a blanket nearby me, under cover. And he just will stay there the whole night. But no, he was just in a comfort zone that was unusual, where he was just like, oh yeah, this is cool, you know, I'm friends with everybody, you know. And I was
Yeah, there's no
where
stress.
is this coming from?
Yeah.
Because he's normally not like that. Yeah, in bed, he sleeps at the foot of the bed, under cover all the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, he just snores away. And it doesn't matter what is going on with me. And Barry's sound asleep most of the time. And sometimes it boggles my mind that, you know, everybody's sound asleep, both dogs and Barry, and they're like a couple inches away from me, sound asleep. And I'm here not sleeping. They're talk. And they're burning my hand, or sitting on me, or, you know, trying to assault me, or do like horrible things to me all night long.
Yeah.
And grab me and, you know, yank at me and stuff. And it's just like, it just boggles my mind that Barry is so close to me. And then my dog right there at my feet, sound asleep, like nothing disturbs them. And we've even caught, you know, we caught on camera, like they lifted the blanket, a whole blanket that was folded. So the blanket's folded and thick, and Davey's licking his paw underneath another blanket. And it's like 1.5 feet off the bed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just like, how can that, you know, I was totally oblivious to it and didn't even see it. Barry caught it and filmed it, but I was just like, how does that even, like, not even, like, I didn't even see it, and I'm in the same room, you know? I just don't.
And it's not like
get
he's a
it.
super chill dude. I mean, he's an excitable little guy.
Yeah,
So-
I know that.
And he obviously, if he has a biting reaction, then he has a fight reaction to stress, right? And to being
Right.
attacked. So suddenly, if he was laying under blankets and one of them just got ripped off of him,
Oh, he
he's
would have
kind of animal that would have
attacked you.
a panic response,
Yeah.
right?
He's
But
like,
yet he
don't.
just lays there and doesn't move. And I think the spirits put him to sleep. I mean, I think that's a thing. And I dealt with that when we moved into that house in Baltimore. My mom was getting attacked every night. I know, Melody, we talked about this. And in the beginning, it was sort of the kind of rapey attacks. And then she put a stop to that.
Yeah.
But it was still the physical attacks. And
Right.
and my dad slept through the whole thing and didn't say a word. And it wasn't until years later, I produced a paranormal documentary and I showed it to my parents at Christmas. So by now, let me try to think. It was like 2000 and I don't know, 12. So my dad would have been 80. Well, you know, he died in 2012. It would have been, I don't know, maybe he would have been 85.
Wow.
And this is a man who his whole life said he never saw anything in that house, right? He watches the film.
Wow.
And then he looks at me and he says, you know, when we lived in that house, and because all the years of him telling my mom and I we were crazy, and my mom said, oh my God, don't you even start. She literally gave him the hand to talk to. And he said, there was a gentleman that looked like a Franciscan monk. And he used to walk through the wall every morning at 3 a.m. and sit on the end of the bed and stare at me. And then he would get up and he would walk back through the wall. But I didn't think it was paranormal. So now my mom is, you know, jumping up and down. What did you think it was? Crazy all those years.
Wow.
But because he was an atheist, he was a lapsed Catholic, right? Which funny, he still saw the priest. He was a lapsed Catholic and he didn't believe in anything. He was very Isaac Asimov, tech sci-fi, when robots rule the world type person. He had this encounter every night in that house, but yet my mom saw everything in that house, but never saw the monk. And even though my mom was an intense psychic medium, she never saw the monk. She could tell you 50 things she saw in that house, but she never saw that. So it's
Wow.
interesting how they can select who sees what, right?
Yeah.
They really can. They can manipulate our three-dimensional plane
Yeah.
and make us do and say different things.
Yeah.
They can do it with sound also.
Yes.
I've had
yeah,
experiences
the
with sound.
Yes.
I hear it and nobody else hears
And
it.
nobody else
I
hears it.
felt, yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
I
I had
felt
a-
really
Sometimes-
bad one time.
Yeah, I had a
I felt
GoPro
really
of-
bad one time. I'm sorry.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
darling, go.
I was just gonna say I had a
Okay.
GoPro above the bed, and I was going to bed. You could see me right getting ready to go to bed, and the sheets started puffing up. I had no idea that was going on. It was right in front of me. I didn't even see that
Yeah.
Oh, that was when the sheets on the side?
on the middle there.
Oh, in the middle. Yeah.
In the middle
Yeah.
of it, yeah. They just
Yeah,
started puffing
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
I think Darlene saw some of that footage.
Yeah, Darlene.
Yeah.
I was
it's-
just going to say, one time I was having an attachment problem, and this is back in Maryland, and I had a roommate, and I had a really bad fall. I mean, it was so loud that all the animals took off and everything, and it hurt me really bad. I couldn't walk really well for a couple of days, but my roommate didn't hear a thing. And when he finally came in, he was like, "How could I have not heard that?" And I'm like, "I don't know," but it was just so loud. And then like water be flowing, like all the faucets on, and he didn't hear it. But I hear the running water, and I'd have to go and turn off the faucets. And so,
Yeah.
they are very selected with certain things.
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought the other night, and I was going to ask you, and I never did, Darlene. I thought I heard that mid-Atlantic accent. So I believe that Maryland is the most haunted state in the country. There are
It is well known.
more stories of people having hideous ghost experiences. Like my house was like the Amityville or the Conjuring house. I mean, it was that bad. And so many times now people find me and they're like, "I just want you to know, messed up things happen to me in Maryland too." And I'm like, what is the story with Maryland?
Yeah.
Where were you in Maryland?
I was in Southern Maryland, so I'm like close to Leonardtown and Point Lookout and all that good stuff, and it's a hot spot.
Yeah,
I was in
the whole state.
Mechanicsville, Maryland.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The whole state. There's something about Maryland. I remember once, and I tell this story all the time. So we lived halfway between Baltimore and the Pennsylvania border, northeastern Maryland, and it was so haunted. And it wasn't only haunted, but also all these three-dimensional things happen. Like we were talking about Davy the dog and the changes in his personality. And one day we had just woken up from a night of literally everything, every kitchen cabinet opening and closing, cans are flying across the room, right? We had this backyard that was 2 acres and it sloped down, like it was great for sledding in the winter. And at the bottom was an old shed where my dad kept like the lawnmowers and stuff like that. We looked down at the bottom of the property and there's the biggest snapping turtle that you've ever seen. And my dad is trying to fend it off with a shovel. And then right outside the sliding glass door, there are these 2 copperhead snakes, and they're knocking their heads on the slider and driving the dogs crazy. And my mom looks at me and she says, "We're never going to get out of here." And then thankfully that summer my dad got transferred and we moved to Southern California. But I mean, it literally was like being trapped in a hell that didn't only happen at night, it happened during the day too. And it seemed like the energy of the property was controlling things like snakes and turtles and trees that would fall over for no reason and vegetables that would come up rotten. And I mean, it was just like everything. So I think we haven't really begun to tap into the scope of what spirits can energetically do, not just in their world, but in our physiological world as well.
Yeah, you brought up a good thing. We were Barry's working on my documentary, and he's getting close to starting to get into it.
The editing part.
The editing part of it, and so he's been watching a lot of the Entity Case documentary.
The Culver City case. Absolutely.
Yeah, because he's very close. He was very close to Barry Taff and all those guys that did the Entity Case. So
sure. Yeah.
So he's been watching a lot of interviews, and they bring up the San Pedro case and stuff. And I told Barry, because there's a part in the San Pedro case where a little white ball of light enters Jackie's head. and I brought up a really good fact, and I said that right there shows you that they deliberately go into your head to see what you are thinking about. They want to know what you're doing, what you're thinking about. And I looked online, and so when we see something, we look at an image, and then we go, oh, that's a phone, computer, or whatever, right? And then we read it back as phone, computer when we see the image, because we're looking at an image first to read what it is. Well, these entities do the same thing. They enter our head through energy, and they read the images that we're looking at, and they go, oh, she's thinking about this and that.
I believe that. Yes.
Yes. And that just proves it from his documentary on the San Pedro case, showing the orb entering Jackie's head. And I was like, and so you get all these people with these EVPs, and you're like, oh, it said my name. And I'm like, well, that's not rocket science, because they go in your head and you're thinking about your name.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not an EVP thing. It's a, they're thinking about their name, and then the process is the entity goes into their head, sees the name,
dream state,
and then they recite it back, Barry. And then they go, oh, it said my name. And I'm just like, that's because I'm like, well, because you're thinking about your name.
There's a certain amount of intelligence too, right? I mean, it's like what if you took a week and you studied somebody on the internet, anybody, and then you were put in a room next to them, you would know a lot of stuff about them because you're studying them. Whether it was a famous person or it was just the person next door that you found on the internet.
Yeah.
It's not hard if you've been studying.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they've been studying you because they're interested in whatever they're interested in about you.
Right.
Your light, your energy, possessing you, attaching to you, whatever it is they want. And so they've studied you, and they know things about you, including they know what scares you. They know what makes you mad. Like this thing when I was growing up in the Baltimore house, it knew how to push every one of my mother's buttons. And we didn't know at the time that you didn't give spirits attention. So my mom thought if she just kicked the thing's ass, it would go away. So she would scream at it and swear at it and get out of my house, you this and that. And all it did was rile it up for more fun because it got attention. And we've seen that with the little devils, kidding, not kidding, that have attached themselves to you, Melodie.
Yeah.
That if you get angry at them, they just get riled up for more fun. Because for them, they're like a person who's a narcissist, right? They like attention. They don't care if it's positive or negative.
Yeah.
They just like attention. And so they'll take it from anywhere. And so the secret is to give them none. And so that's when they started acting up and making Darlene's box saying, no, 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 no again. I just kept saying, oh, okay. So what you mean by the no's is that you're just going to go away and we're never going to see any of you again. And that's when it would stop. And then they would say, no, and then stop again. It's like, oh, okay. So if you're going to be like that, then we're just taking that to mean you don't care and you're going away and, see you in the next life. Because they need to learn to realize, I mean, obviously you've tried so many things, Melodie. They're not scared. They're not getting interested in anybody else. I mean, the only way we're going to get rid of them is to fill your energy up, your field up so much with light. And then to also let them know they're not getting any more attention from you. You don't care what they do, whatever.
Yeah. Well, that night after you guys left, they burned my hand really bad.
I'm so sorry.
It was just extremely painful. I didn't get any blisters or anything, but the heat was so intense. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. That I couldn't get any sleep. And so then I was like, Okay, so I'm trying to think the next night, what am I going to do, to get them not to burn my hand anymore? So I'm always trying to think of what I can do, be a step ahead of them, I'd like to just go to bed and sleep and not have to worry about anything. But unfortunately, that's not the case with me. I did stop doing a few things. So, and I didn't go back to doing it again. But with the burning of the hand, I told Barry, I said, yeah, I took the 2-sided wig tape because medical tape isn't sticky enough.
Okay.
And they could just peel it right off. And I was like, well, that doesn't work. But the wig tape is so strong. And then I take the EMF protector stones. I'm not going to say the name of it, but you know what it is.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And I put the wig tape on the back, and I taped it on my front and the back of my hand, and I slept with it on, and I put one on my other hand too, just in case they got the idea of burning the other hand.
Is that your arrowhead, your big arrowhead on your hand?
No, I didn't use the arrowhead. I used
is it black tourmaline?
No, SHUG.
Shungite.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so yeah, they couldn't pull it off, and I could feel them. Yep. You can actually feel them trying to get it off. Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't come off. They were irritated and they wouldn't come off. And then I also, because you told me, with the wand.
Selenite wand, yep.
Yeah. And I had another one of those stones.
Okay, good.
I used the wig tape again, taped them to my chest.
Okay.
Yeah. And they couldn't get it off.
I mean, it's great that you're finding ways to keep them away, but you shouldn't have to sleep with shungite super glued to your body every night.
No, I know that. I know that. But with the burning of the hand, I just needed, a night where they weren't doing it. So they decided to chatter all night long instead and scream at me.
Yeah.
So that was their diversion. And then they were like, what's going on? And screaming at me and I can't get it off. I can't get these off. And, just all night long. And then I actually have a new bruise on my leg because they tugged at me in the blankets. But yeah, I mean, it's this vicious cycle of I'm trying just to go to bed with nothing, but then they do these things and it's just it's difficult,
Yeah. And Barry, have you ever been attacked? I mean, even through all of your time on the San Pedro haunting, have you ever been targeted individually?
Just one time, actually, Sheena. It was the night of the hanging incident when Jeff was attacked. He comes down. I'm filming from down below, as you remember the footage. And he comes down, and then he settles down. He's in the kitchen after I shot the burn marks in his neck and so forth. And suddenly I'm looking through the camera. And I see a ball of light in the viewfinder, but it didn't register in front of the camera. Excuse me. And suddenly I felt a surge of electricity going through my body, and I started to pass out. And they were all helping me get back up from the floor. And actually the camera was still rolling as I'm going down. You'll see the ceiling, my point of view. And then it released from me, and I was fine. But that's the only time I can think of it actually attacking me, as far as any physical attacks like that.
And if you haven't seen that photo, all you have to do is Google the San Pedro haunting, and I'm sure you put it up somewhere. But the photographer for the case that Barry was working at literally got hung by a coat hanger off a nail in the closet in the attic of this house when he went up to take pictures of what was going on in the attic, because they were hearing noises up there. So it certainly was an attacky spirit, but it didn't pick you. Darlene, have you ever been attacked by a spirit?
Yes, I have. I've been scratched, and that's very interesting when you get scratched. I got scratched on my leg,
Yeah.
And what it feels like is this terrible burning. All of a sudden, it just burns, and you're like, "What is going on?" And you lift up your leg, your pant leg, and you see the scratches. And then, like I was telling you, when I was having that one thing that was really bothering me, that made my roommate not hear things. I remember me and my roommate. It also makes you fight sometimes with people.
Oh yes.
And
Yes.
Yes.
They start arguments.
And me, yeah. And me and my roommate are fighting. And I remember being so upset about this because it was my best friend. And I remember saying to myself how disappointed I was because we were just so close of friends. Well, the next day I go to work and I'm sitting there working with a guy I've never worked with before in my life. He turns and looks at me straight in the eye and goes, "I'm so disappointed in you, Darlene. We used to be so close friends." And basically repeated my same words that I said in my room the night before by myself.
Yep.
I'm up on a ladder. I looked at him. I said, "I gotta go to the bathroom," and I left. And I had to splash water on my face. I was like, that was freaked out. And we had lunch right after that. And I'm sitting next to the guy. He's like passing out, like something had taken over. Now he's just drained of energy.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were the types of attacks I was having.
Yeah. Yeah. It's scary. I mean, it's the times that it's happened to me, very few, but a few. I mean, I remember one that was so visceral. I literally thought I was having a heart attack and a stroke at the same time. And I kept, it was just like 2 seconds from, do I have to call an ambulance? It was like 3:00 in the morning. I'm like, do I have to call an ambulance? And then Spirit said to me, just start reciting the Lord's Prayer. And I thought, well, that's the dumbest thing. I probably don't even know the Lord's Prayer. I didn't grow up going to church, but miraculously enough, I knew most of the Lord's Prayer. And what I didn't know, I got from a nice JPEG of the Lord's Prayer that I found on Google. And then it started to get better. It was what got better. So I tell people now, no matter what your background is religiously, if it happens to you, start saying the Lord's Prayer. I don't know what it is about the Lord's Prayer, but I highly recommend now. And then somebody woke up in the house and put a piece of hematite in each one of my hands. Said, I just woke up and I felt you needed hematite. Just woke up and gave me the hematite. And then that was what really stopped it. But if you have not had a spiritual attack, it's a super scary thing. And it's something that is very much affecting you in the physiological world. It is not something that's just like, oh, it's happening in your head and you're not really thinking about it. I mean, you are getting flushed, you're freezing, you've got a headache, you feel like you're having a heart attack. I mean, it's all those things happening at one time. And it's and then all the emotional stuff happening on the top of that because you're panicking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's setting off like a grand mal anxiety attack.
Right.
So it's
And nobody believes you.
and then nobody believes you, right? Nobody believes, oh, a spirit just walked through me. They're just thinking like, oh, why are you being so weird and panicking? And why is this happening to you? And why can't you just get it together?
It doesn't work like that. Yeah. It's weird. They'll try to go through me.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, I'm going to possess you. And then they try to go through me and everything, all my hair stands on end. And it does. It feels like this charge of electrical inside of you. And you feel kind of numb and tingly inside. It's not a good feeling. And they've never actually succeeded all the way.
Right.
And then I hear them saying, damn it, it's not working. And then I get released.
Yeah.
So
they only have so much energy. They can only do so much at the time because they only have so much energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, you all need to come back and do this again. I would love it. Also, we need to plan our next adventure together, not only to help heal Melodie, but to help heal other people that are in the same kind of place. I'm honored, Darlene, that you're going to be part of my new Surf City Paranormal Society. Because boy, do I need you, because I'm not a techspert. I'm not a gadget person. I don't know and I don't care how to run all that stuff. My head's in the psychic cloud. Barry, I'm excited about this documentary and I'm honored to be a part of it, as I'm sure Darlene is too. And I just think you're all terrific and I love spending time with you. Even if we weren't being attacked by spirits, I would still love spirits. Where can we find Darlene? Where can people find you online?
I don't have a website or anything, so just, my Facebook is Darlene Burton. I haven't set up anything just yet, so.
You will. It'll come. Melodie,
Yeah.
how about you?
It's just under my name, Melodie Brookman. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.
Perfect. Barry?
They can find me on Facebook, just under my name, Barry Conrad. Also, I have a website for my video production company. It's www.barconvideoproductions.com.
Awesome. All right. I love you all dearly. Thank you for being here. Barry Conrad, Melodie Brookman, Darlene Burton, my new Ghostbuster friends. It's so fun to be here with you all. Let's get Melodie better and get rid of these nasty things, because nobody should have to be possessed or have spirit attachments. Everybody should have their own mind, body, and soul free of spirits. And that is one of my goals. If you missed those links, SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. That's how to find me, SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. Also, text me and let's get to know each other better. 818-437-0886. And please find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and X, formerly Twitter. I'm just at Sheena Metal everywhere. Until I see you next time, seek peace, live in love, lead with kindness, embrace unity, always work to raise your vibration, and know that you are love and you are loved and you're so loved by me. I'm Sheena Metal. Thank you so much to my friend Tony Sweet, who owns and operates Parapod TV. We're so excited to be a part of your para family. And of course, my wonderful engineer and producer, Emery, who is the wind beneath my wings. You're a god. And I thank you, my friend. I'm Sheena Metal, and this is the Sheena Metal Experience. And we'll see you next Wednesday at 3:00, only on Parapod TV. Until then, stay spooky, stay safe, take care of you, and I love you all. Namaste.